You are sitting at your kitchen table with your laptop open, and you are looking at a number that feels like it should mean something. Maybe you have 75,000 points, or maybe you have 200,000. It is a big round number that represents months or even years of your spending. You feel a sense of accomplishment because you have played the game and you have accumulated this balance. But then you start trying to actually use those points, and everything becomes confusing very quickly. You look at a flight from New York to London, and the website says it costs 60,000 points and $300 in taxes. Then you look at the cash price for that same flight, and it is only $800. Suddenly you are doing mental gymnastics to figure out if you are getting a good deal or if you are being cheated by the very system you spent so much time participating in. This is the moment where most people experience a specific kind of stress. It is not just about the money. It is the feeling that there is a secret math you do not know, and without it, you are just guessing. We have all been there. We have all scrolled through pages of hotels and flights, wondering if we should save our points for a better trip later, or if we should just spend them now to get it over with. The problem is that points do not have a fixed value like a $20 bill does. A $20 bill is always worth $20 at the grocery store or the gas station. But your points are a fluctuating currency that changes value depending on how you use them and who you give them to. This uncertainty is actually built into the system by design because it makes you more likely to make a mistake or to overspend just to earn more of this confusing currency. If you do not have a clear way to measure what a point is worth in actual money, you cannot make a rational decision. You end up making choices based on how a redemption makes you feel, rather than what it actually does for your bank account. In this session, we are going to fix that. We are going to stop treating points like a game or a hobby and start treating them like a financial asset that requires a specific measurement tool. By the time we are done, you will know exactly how to look at any offer and decide in 10 seconds if it is worth your time. We are going to move away from the frustration of clicking through endless travel portals and move toward a system where you are the one in control. You will understand that the confusion you feel right now is not a lack of intelligence on your part, but is a direct result of how these systems are built to distract you from the actual value. We are starting with the basics of how to look at your personal spending and how to translate those big point balances into a number that actually makes sense for your life. To understand why your points feel so confusing, we have to look at the math from the perspective of the bank. We often think of points as a gift or a bonus for our loyalty, but for a bank, points are a liability on a balance sheet. They are a currency that the bank creates out of thin air, and they need that currency to behave in very specific ways to remain profitable. When you earn 1 point, the bank has already decided exactly what that point is worth to them, which is usually around 1 cent. This is the baseline. If the bank can get you to redeem that point for less than 1 cent, they have made a profit on the difference. If you manage to redeem it for more than 1 cent, you have effectively taken value back from the system. This is where the calculation of cents per point becomes your most important tool. To find this number, you take the cash price of the flight or hotel room, subtract any taxes or fees you still have to pay in cash, and then divide that remaining amount by the number of points required. For example, if a hotel room costs $200 and you can book it for 20,000 points, you are getting exactly 1 cent per point. If that same room costs $200 but the bank wants 40,000 points, you are only getting 0.5 cents per point. In that second scenario, you are essentially losing half the value of your rewards. This is not just a math exercise. It is about understanding the systemic friction designed to keep you from maximizing your value. Banks know that most people will not do this math at the checkout screen. They rely on the fact that 50,000 points sounds like a lot of money regardless of what those points actually buy. When a bank offers you the ability to pay for your Amazon order, or your morning coffee, with points at a rate of 0.6 cents per point. They are hoping you value convenience over the math. They are counting on the psychological effect of a high point balance to mask the low purchasing power. By establishing your own personal floor, such as deciding that you will never use a point for less than 1.5 cents, you effectively opt out of the bank's game. You stop being a passive participant and start acting like a currency trader who only moves when the exchange rate is in your favor. This systemic view shows us that the point system is not broken. It is working exactly as intended to capture value back from the average consumer who does not calculate the rate. When you start seeing points as a decimal point in a larger financial equation, you strip away the marketing and see the raw numbers. The bank has a cost to acquire you as a customer, and they have a cost to maintain the points on their books. They use complex algorithms to predict how many people will let their points expire or use them for low-value redemptions. By simply performing the division of price over points, you are using the one piece of logic that the system cannot automate away from you. This is the first step in taking control of the system. You are no longer asking if you have enough points for a trip. You are asking if the bank is offering you a fair exchange rate for the debt they owe you. If the rate is below your floor, you pay with cash and keep your asset. If the rate is above your floor, you execute the trade. This simple shift in perspective moves the power from the bank's marketing department back to your kitchen table. Now that we understand how the bank views your points, we need to look at the most important calculation for your own wallet. This is the choice between earning points and earning simple cash back. Many people feel like they are winning when they see their point balance grow, but they forget that earning those points has a very real cost. If you use a travel rewards card that gives you 2 points for every dollar spent, you are making a choice not to use a card that gives you 2% cash back. This is your baseline. To justify earning points instead of cash, those points must eventually be worth more than the cash you gave up to get them. Let us look at the real numbers to see how this works. Imagine you spend $50,000 on your credit card in a single year. If you use a 2% cashback card, you end up with $1,000 in your bank account at the end of the year. That is $1,000 you can use to pay your rent, buy groceries, or invest in the stock market. Now imagine you used a travel card instead and earned 100,000 points. If you redeem those points for a trip that would have cost you $1,000, you have broken even. You are in the exact same position as the person with the cash. However, if you redeem those 100,000 points for a flight that only costs $800, you have actually lost $200 in value. You worked harder to earn a currency that is less flexible and less valuable than the cash you could have had. This is the trap of the points hobby. People get excited about a free flight without realizing they actually paid for it through the opportunity cost of the cash back they walked away from. To make points worth your time, you must be able to consistently redeem them for more than your cash back baseline. If your alternative is a 2% cashback card, then every point you earn must be worth more than 1 cent just to stay level. If you can only get 1 cent per point, you are better off taking the cash because cash is liquid and it never expires. Points are a locked currency. You can only spend them with specific partners, and the bank can change the prices at any time without warning. This is why we calculate the break-even point. You have to ask yourself if you are willing to take a risk on a restricted currency for the chance of a higher return later. If you are a person who only travels once a year and usually stays in budget hotels, the math often suggests that you should stick to cash back. The effort required to find a high-value redemption might not outweigh the simplicity of $1,000 hitting your bank account automatically. On the other hand, if you are someone who values business class flights or luxury resorts, points can be worth 2 or even 3 cents each. In that case, your 100,000 points are worth $2,000 or $3,000. That is a massive win over the $1,000 in cash back. But you have to be honest with yourself about your actual habits. If you earn points but then use them for gift cards or to pay off your statement balance at a low rate, you are effectively giving the bank a voluntary donation. You are accepting a lower return on your spending than the market is offering you. This is the immediate impact of understanding value per point. It turns your credit card from a collection of perks into a clear choice between two financial paths. You are either a cash investor or a points speculator. Both paths can work, but you have to know which one you are on. If you do not know your personal break-even number, the bank will decide it for you. And they will almost always decide in a way that favors their profits over your savings. You must look at your last 12 months of spending and ask what you would have preferred. Would you rather have had the points you currently hold, or would you rather have had 2% of that total spending back in your checking account today? If the answer is the cash, then the system is currently working against you. This realization can be uncomfortable because it means some of the points you have earned might have been a bad investment. But once you see the math, you can stop the leak. You can start choosing the tool that actually moves you closer to your goals. We are not just looking for free travel. We are looking for the most efficient way to use your regular daily spending to increase your net worth or your quality of life. Understanding this trade-off is the only way to ensure that your participation in these rewards programs is a calculated move rather than a distraction from your overall financial health. You have probably seen those photos on social media where someone is sitting in a massive lie-flat seat on a plane with a glass of expensive juice and a full multi-course meal. They usually mention that they paid almost nothing for the seat because they used points. This creates a specific kind of pressure. You start to feel like you are doing something wrong if you use your points for a standard economy flight to visit your family for the holidays. This is the social side of the points system, and it is where many people start to lose their way. We live in a culture that treats luxury travel as a major life goal. Because points make that luxury accessible to people who would never pay $10,000 for a plane ticket, the points themselves become a status symbol. The problem is that this social pressure often forces you into spending your points on things you do not actually value. You might find yourself booking a 5-star hotel in a city you do not even like just because the redemption value was 3 cents per point. In that moment, you are not using the system to improve your life. You are letting the system dictate your travel choices. Think about the last time you saw a travel influencer talk about a hidden gem or a sweet spot in a rewards program. They are usually focused on the highest possible math value, which makes sense for their content. But for you, the viewer, that high-value redemption might actually be a waste of resources. If you would have been perfectly happy in a $300 hotel that costs 15,000 points, but you spend 60,000 points on a luxury resort instead, you have technically gained more value per point, but you have depleted your balance 4 times faster. You have to ask yourself if that extra luxury actually changed your experience, or if you just did it because you felt like that is what points people are supposed to do. This societal push toward high-end redemptions creates a strange market behavior where everyone is chasing the same few seats and the same few hotel rooms. It makes the game harder for everyone because availability drops as more people try to mimic what they see online. You should feel confident using your points for whatever makes your real life easier. If using points to pay for a boring flight home for Thanksgiving saves you $500 that you can put into your savings account, that is a huge win. Even if the math only comes out to 1.2 cents per point, the real-world utility of that saved cash is often higher than the theoretical value of a first-class seat you did not really want. We need to ground our decisions in our own actual needs rather than the curated images we see from others. The points are a tool for your personal economy. When you stop worrying about whether your redemption is cool enough to talk about at a party, you gain a lot of freedom. You can start using points to solve problems, like a last-minute flight for a family emergency or a hotel stay when your flight gets canceled. These are not glamorous uses for points, but they are incredibly high value for your stress levels and your bank account. The goal of understanding the math is to give you the confidence to ignore the noise. When you know your own numbers and your own goals, you do not need to compare your trip to anyone else's. You are not competing with the internet. You are just managing your own money. By recognizing this social pressure, you can step back and breathe. You can decide that a standard room at a nice hotel is exactly what you need, and you can save your remaining points for another trip next year. That is what true control looks like. It is the ability to walk away from a high-value deal because it does not fit your life. We are going to keep moving forward by looking at how these individual choices connect back to the larger systems that the banks have built. But for now, just remember that the best way to use your points is the way that makes you feel the most financially secure and the least stressed, regardless of what the photos online might suggest. Now, we need to look at how points move between different companies and why this movement is the key to getting more value out of the system. Most people start by looking at their bank travel portal, which is basically just a travel agency owned by the bank. When you book a flight through a portal, you are usually getting exactly 1 cent per point because the bank is just buying a cash ticket on your behalf and charging you their internal currency at a fixed rate. But the real power in the system comes from transfer partners. This is where you take your points from a bank like Chase or American Express and move them into a frequent flyer program like United or Delta or Singapore Airlines. To understand why this works, you have to understand the wholesale relationship between banks and airlines. Banks buy billions of miles from airlines at a very low cost, and when you transfer your points, you are essentially participating in that wholesale market. This is an integration of everything we have discussed so far because it connects your personal spending to the systemic relationship between financial institutions and the travel industry. Let us look at how the math changes when you move points. Suppose you want to fly from Los Angeles to Tokyo. In the bank portal, that flight might cost $1,500, which would require 150,000 points at a rate of 1 cent per point. However, if you transfer those same points to an airline partner, you might find that the same seat only costs 70,000 miles. Because you moved the points out of the bank system and into the airline system, you just doubled your value per point. You are now getting over 2 cents per point for the exact same flight. This works because airlines use a different logic for pricing their seats than banks do. Airlines have a certain number of seats that they know will go empty, and they would rather fill them with people using miles than leave them vacant. The bank does not have this inventory, so they have to pay full price. By learning which partners offer the best rates, you are effectively finding the gaps in the system where points are worth more than cash. But there is a catch that you need to understand before you start moving your points around. Once you transfer points from a bank to an airline, you cannot move them back. You have traded a very flexible currency for a very restricted one. This is where your personal valuation floor becomes your most important guardrail. You should only transfer points when you have a specific flight in mind, and you have confirmed that the award seat is actually available. If you transfer 100,000 points to an airline because you saw a good deal, but then that deal disappears, you are stuck with points that might be harder to use later. This is the integration of risk and reward. The higher value you seek, the more friction and risk you have to accept. This is why we say that points are a tool for system control. When you understand transfer partners, you are no longer limited to the prices the bank shows you. You are looking at a global map of different currencies and choosing the one that gives you the most leverage. This also connects back to our discussion about opportunity cost. If you can consistently get 2 cents per point by using transfer partners, then your choice to earn points instead of 2% cash back becomes a much Better financial decision. You are essentially turning your daily spending into a high-yield asset. But you have to be willing to do the extra step of checking availability and understanding the rules of each airline program. Most people will not do this. They will stay in the portal because it is easy. By taking this extra step, you are joining a small group of users who actually extract more value from the bank than the bank expects to give away. This is how the system stays balanced. The bank makes a high profit on the millions of people who use points for 0.6 cents on Amazon, and they use a portion of that profit to fund the high-value redemptions for the few people who understand the math of transfer partners. You are deciding which side of that equation you want to be on. To summarize what we have covered in this section, you should now see that points are not just one thing. They are a starting point that can be transformed into something much more valuable if you know how to navigate the connections between banks and airlines. You are moving from a simple consumer mindset to a strategic mindset where you evaluate every transfer as a business transaction. You are looking for the highest return on your points while managing the risk of restricted currencies. This is where the game actually starts to pay off and where your math skills become your greatest advantage in the travel market. To truly understand why the points in your account behave the way they do today, we have to look back at where they came from. In the early 1980s, the airline industry in the United States was recently deregulated. Before that time, the government decided where airlines could fly and how much they could charge. Once that changed, airlines were suddenly in a brutal price war. They needed a way to keep customers from just picking the cheapest ticket every time. American Airlines launched the first modern frequent flyer program in 1981. At the start, it was a very simple system. You flew a mile and you earned a mile. If you flew enough miles, you got a free ticket. There was a direct one-to-one relationship between the physical distance you traveled and the reward you received. It was easy to understand because it was based on physical reality, but the airlines quickly realized that these miles were more than just a loyalty tool. They were a secondary currency that they could sell to other businesses. By the late 1980s, credit card companies began to realize that people would be willing to pay an annual fee or accept a higher interest rate if they could earn these airline miles on their daily purchases. This was a massive historical shift. It moved the earning of rewards away from the act of traveling and toward the act of spending. Suddenly, the airline was no longer just a transportation company. They were becoming a bank that issued a digital currency. As this system grew through the 1990s and into the early 2000s, the complexity exploded. Airlines began to realize that if they kept the value of a mile at a simple one-to-one ratio, it would be too expensive for them as more people accumulated massive balances through their credit cards. They began to decouple the miles from the distance flown. They introduced different tiers of availability and started changing the prices of award tickets based on demand. This is the origin of the confusion you feel today. We moved from a transparent system based on geography to an opaque system based on financial derivatives. In 2009 and 2010, the major airlines began to shift their programs again. They stopped rewarding you for how far you flew and started rewarding you for how much you paid for your ticket. This completed the transformation of points into a purely financial instrument. Today, the points you earn on your credit card are part of a multi-billion-dollar economy where banks buy points from airlines in bulk to distribute them to you. This history matters because it explains why the math is so inconsistent. You are using a system that was built in layers over 40 years. Each layer was designed to solve a problem for the companies, not for you. The original simplicity was replaced by intentional complexity to help companies manage their debt. When you calculate the value of your points today, you are essentially trying to solve a puzzle that has been 40 years in the making. You are navigating a world where the currency you hold has no central bank or fixed exchange rate. It is a market that the airlines and banks can manipulate at any time. By understanding that this system evolved to be confusing, you can stop blaming yourself for not finding it intuitive. It is not intuitive because it was designed to be a game where the rules change as soon as the players start winning too much. This historical perspective allows us to see points for what they really are. They are not a thank you for your business. They are a high-margin product sold by airlines to banks and then marketed to you as a dream of luxury travel. Knowing this background helps you stay objective. You can look at these programs without the emotional attachment that the marketing tries to create. You can see that the evolution from miles to points was a move toward more control for the providers and less for the consumers. Our goal now is to use the math of value per point to reclaim some of that control for ourselves in this modern, complex landscape. To get a true picture of your reward's value, we have to look at the money you pay before you even earn a single point. Most premium travel cards come with an annual fee. This fee is often between $250 and $695 per year. Many people ignore this cost because the card comes with perks like airport lounge access or a statement credit for a streaming service. But from a systemic perspective, the annual fee is a fixed cost that significantly lowers the real value of every point you earn. You are starting every year in a financial hole, and your points have to work to dig you out of it. Let us look at the math for a card with a $500 annual fee. If you earn 2 points per dollar and you spend $25,000 in a year, you will have 50,000 points. If those points are worth 1 cent each, they are worth $500. In this scenario, you have spent an entire year using the card just to break even on the fee. Your actual profit for the year is zero. If you had used a 2% cashback card with no annual fee, instead you would have $500 in your pocket. This means that to make the premium card worth it, your 50,000 points need to be worth much more than 1 cent each, or the perks need to be things you were already going to pay for with cash. Banks are very smart about how they structure these fees. They offer you credits for specific things like a $200 hotel credit or a $100 credit for a delivery app. They know that if you use those credits, you will feel like the annual fee is effectively lower. However, if you only use those services because you had the credit, you are not actually saving money. You are just being directed to spend your capital within the bank's ecosystem. This is a system designed to create loyalty through sunk costs. Because you have already paid the $500, you feel a psychological need to use the card for every purchase to get your money's worth. This is why we must apply the value per point calculation to the net gain after the fee is considered. If you spend $500 on a fee and you earn $1,000 worth of travel, you have only made $500. When you divide that $500 profit by your total points, your effective value per point drops significantly. If you are not traveling enough to use the lounges, or if you find it difficult to use the specific credits the bank provides, the annual fee becomes a major drain on your personal economy. You have to be honest about whether the math supports the premium lifestyle the card promises. For many people, a simple card with a $95 fee or no fee at all is actually more profitable because the hurdle to reach positive value is so much lower. The bank counts on the fact that you will value the status of a heavy metal card more than the raw numbers of the annual fee. But when we look at the system as a whole, we see that the annual fee is a tool the bank uses to ensure they make a profit. Even if you are a savvy user who finds high-value redemptions, they are effectively charging you a subscription fee for the right to play their game. To take control of this, you must perform an annual audit. You take the total value of the points you redeemed plus the actual cash value of the perks you used and subtract the annual fee. If that number is not higher than what you would have earned with a basic cashback card, it is time to cancel the card or move to a lower tier. This is how you prevent the system from using your habits to fuel its own growth at your expense. You are making a business decision every year based on the actual performance of the asset rather than the marketing promises made when you signed up. Understanding the math of annual fees is the difference between being a customer who is profitable for the bank and being a user who makes the bank's system work for them. You are looking for a return on your investment of both your money and your time. If the fee is $500 and your time is worth $50 an hour, you need to see a very high return to justify the hours spent searching for the perfect flight. This systemic view strips away the emotion and leaves you with a clear choice. Either the card pays for itself in raw value or it does not. There is no middle ground in a math-based system. Let us take a break from the heavy math and walk through a normal Tuesday morning where you are trying to book a trip for your anniversary. You have 200,000 points in your account, and you are looking at a flight to Paris. You find a ticket that costs $1,200 if you pay with your credit card. Then you check the rewards portal, and it says you can have that same flight for 120,000 points. At first glance, this looks fine because it is exactly 1 cent per point. But then you remember the transfer partners we talked about earlier. You spend 30 minutes looking at different airline websites, and you finally find a seat for 80,000 points plus $200 in taxes. Now you are facing a real choice that every points holder has to make. Do you take the easy route or the high-value route? If you take the easy route in the portal, you spend 120,000 points and $0. If you take the transfer route, you spend 80,000 points and $200. To decide which is better, you have to look at the 40,000 points you are saving. Are those 40,000 points worth more to you than the $200 you have to pay in taxes? If you value your points at 1.5 cents each, then those 40,000 points are worth $600. In that case, paying $200 to save $600 worth of points is a fantastic deal. It is like buying points for half a cent each. But now imagine you are busy at work and your kid is sick, and you just do not have the energy to spend 3 hours on airline websites. In that moment, the convenience of the portal might be worth the extra points. This is a personal decision that depends on your own life circumstances. There is no wrong answer as long as you understand the trade-off you are making. Another common scenario is booking a hotel. You might find a nice room for $300 a night. The hotel loyalty program wants 30,000 points per night, which is exactly 1 cent per point. But if you check a different hotel down the street, it might be $250 or 15,000 points. Suddenly, the second hotel is giving you nearly 1.7 cents per point. This is where the work actually pays off. By simply checking one more tab in your browser, you have doubled the value of your rewards. This is not about being a math genius. It is about being a comparison shopper. Most of us already do this with groceries or electronics. We check 2 or 3 stores to see who has the best price. Points should be treated the same way. You are just shopping with a different kind of currency. Sometimes the boring cash booking is actually the smartest move. If a flight is on sale for $400, but the points price is still 50,000 points, you are only getting 0.8 cents per point. In that situation, you should just pay the $400 and save your points for a time when the cash price is higher. By keeping some cash and some points available, you give yourself the flexibility to always choose the cheapest option. You stop being a person who is forced to use points because you have them and start being a person who uses the best tool for the job. This relief from the pressure to always get the perfect redemption is key to enjoying the process. You do not have to win every single time. You just need to win more often than you lose. If most of your trips are around 1.5 cents per point, you are doing great. You are beating the bank, and you are traveling for a fraction of the cost. These everyday scenarios show that the system is only as complicated as you want it to be. You can spend 10 minutes or 10 hours on a booking. The goal of this whole approach is to help you find the balance that works for your schedule and your bank account. You should now feel like you have a better handle on how to weigh the cost of your time against the savings in your wallet. We are going to take these real-world examples and start connecting them back to the bigger picture of how we interact with these massive financial systems as a society. But for now, just remember that a good deal is any deal where you feel like the value you received was worth the effort you put in. When we all start using the same math to find high-value redemptions, it changes the way travel works for everyone else in society. This is the broader impact of the points system that most people do not consider while they are searching for a seat. There is a limited supply of award space on any given flight or in any hotel. As more people learn how to calculate value per point and identify the best deals, the competition for those specific seats becomes intense. We are seeing a societal shift where a small group of highly informed consumers is effectively harvesting the best inventory before the general public even knows it exists. This creates a divide between those who understand the system and those who are just paying the standard prices. Think about a popular vacation destination like Hawaii or a major city like London during the summer. If half of the hotel rooms are being booked by people using points that they earned through strategic spending, the remaining rooms become more expensive for the person paying with cash. The hotels and airlines have to maintain their margins, so they raise the cash prices to offset the cost of the rewards they are fulfilling. This means that even if you do not participate in a rewards program, you are still being affected by the behavior of those who do. We are participating in a system that rewards complexity and punishes simplicity. This societal pressure also changes how we think about the value of travel itself. When a large segment of the population is constantly looking for the best deal rather than the best experience, it forces travel providers to prioritize the features that look good on a rewards chart. You might notice that airlines are adding more premium seats and reducing the comfort of the economy cabin. This is because they can sell those premium seats to banks for points at a much higher profit margin. The person sitting in the back of the plane is effectively subsidizing the person sitting in the front who used points to get there. This is a clear example of how consumer behavior driven by rewards math reshapes an entire industry. We also have to consider the impact on local economies. When a huge wave of points travelers descends on a specific destination because a certain hotel became a sweet spot in a rewards program, it can overwhelm local infrastructure and drive up prices for residents. This is the hidden cost of the system. Our collective pursuit of maximum value per point has real-world consequences that go beyond our own bank accounts. By understanding this, you can see that your decisions are not made in a vacuum. You are part of a massive movement of capital and people. When you choose to wait for a high-value redemption, you are contributing to a specific market pressure. When you choose to pay cash for a budget flight, you are opting out of that pressure for a moment. This realization should not make you feel guilty, but it should make you more aware of the power your spending holds. You are a participant in a global economy of rewards that dictates where planes fly and how hotels are built. The more we all focus on the raw numbers, the more the industry will shift to accommodate those numbers. We are moving toward a future where travel is increasingly bifurcated into the high-value points world and the high-cost cash world. Understanding this societal layer helps you navigate the system with a sense of perspective. You can see why certain flights are always sold out and why some hotels are suddenly impossible to book. It is not just bad luck. It is the result of thousands of people running the same calculations you are running right now. As we move into the final part of our discussion, we are going to bring all of these threads together. We will look at how your personal habits, the bank's systems, and these societal shifts all culminate in a single strategy for you to follow. You should now understand that value per point is not just a way to save money on a vacation. It is a way to understand your place in a complex global system that is constantly trying to balance the needs of corporations with the desires of millions of consumers. By staying focused on the math, you remain an informed actor in a market that relies on a lack of information to stay profitable. We have spent 75 minutes looking at numbers and history and systems, and now it is time to bring this all back to you at your kitchen table. You now understand that every time you tap your credit card, you are participating in a massive global exchange of value. You know that points are not a gift but a currency that you have purchased with your own spending data and your own opportunity cost. You have the tools to calculate cents per point, and you know how to compare that number to a simple 2% cashback baseline. You understand that the bank is counting on your confusion to make a profit, and that the travel industry is shifting to accommodate the people who play this game the best. But here is the reality that no marketing brochure will ever tell you. All of this knowledge is useless if it does not lead to a decision that makes your life better. I want you to look at your current point balance right now. Do not see it as a vague promise of a future vacation. See it as a specific amount of money that is currently sitting in someone else's bank account while you hold the receipt. My challenge to you is simple but difficult. I want you to set your own value floor today and stick to it for the next 6 months. Decide that you will never use a point for less than 1.2 cents or 1.5 cents, or whatever number makes sense for your goals. Once you have that number, the game changes. You no longer have to wonder if a deal is good. The math tells you the answer immediately. If the redemption is below your floor, you pay with cash and you keep your points. If it is above your floor, you use the points and you do not look back. This is the ultimate form of system control. You are refusing to be moved by the hype of a luxury seat or the fear of points expiring. You are acting with the same cold logic that the banks use when they design these programs. You are looking the system directly in the eye and saying that you know exactly what your time and your money are worth. Some people will find that this math leads them away from points entirely. They will realize that the mental energy required to beat the system is not worth the extra few $100s a year. They will switch to cash back and find peace in the simplicity. Others will find that the math unlocks a level of travel they never thought possible, and they will lean into the strategy with total confidence. Both of these outcomes are a victory. The only way you lose is by staying in the middle, where you are earning points without a plan and spending them without a calculation. You are now equipped to exit that middle ground. You have the formulas and you have the perspective. So I am asking you to stop being a passive observer of your own finances. Take the next flight you are planning and run the numbers through the filter we built today. Subtract the taxes, divide by the points. Compare it to your cashback alternative. If the numbers do not work, then do not take the deal. It is your move now. The system will keep changing and the rules will keep evolving, but the math remains the same. You are the one who decides whether a point is a tool for your power or just another distraction in your day. I cannot give you the answer for your specific life because only you know what you value most. I can only give you the lens to see the truth behind the marketing. Use it wisely and stop letting the banks win by default. Thank you for sitting through this deep dive. Now go look at your accounts and decide what you are going to do with that information.